guys, welcome to part 3 of our video presentation on chapter 2. In this part we will start talking about computer software, and in this specific part we will talk mostly about the so-called application software. Overall, the software that is available today in relation to various computing platforms can be subdivided into two main categories. One category is called the so-called application software, and we'll talk more about it later on. And then in the final part we'll talk a little bit about support software, because application software, that kind of those specific applications that end users have on their computer and that they interact with directly, they're only the tip of the iceberg as illustrated here. It's only the tip of the iceberg, because in order for application software to be developed to work properly on a desktop computer, it has to be managed by the operating system that typically takes care or interacts with all kinds of other categories of support software. So application software is something that a lot of users understand as software, but as you may know, as computing professionals, you may know that in order for that software to be available, a lot of things need to be happening in the background. So application software are typically programs written to accomplish a particular business or personal task, let's say something related to accounting, payroll, inventory, sales invoicing, etc. Those are the programs, as we said, that users interact with directly. Software for standard applications typically can be purchased from a vendor. You don't have to code it, you don't have to create it yourself. And then there are some situations where software is unique for specific organizational needs, and those types of applications are typically developed internally or by hiring somebody to develop it. Most of those applications, they include personal productivity software for knowledge workers, something related to data or information manipulation for those professions who are largely involved in service or knowledge work. An example of a software application would be Peachtree, which is a well-known accounting software package used by small businesses. It includes all kinds of functionality that can be used for a small business owner to do his accounting work, and the price is roughly $500 for a single user license. Some other well-known categories of application software, the ones that are used by office workers for improving their own personal productivity in relation to certain knowledge tasks. That involves word processing, for example, Microsoft Word. It also includes spreadsheets such as Microsoft Excel. It also includes database management systems such as Microsoft Access, presentation graphics like Microsoft PowerPoint, and then electronic work and electronic mail and groupware applications. So for electronic mail, one of the most widely used applications, again from Microsoft, is Outlook. And then for groupware, we have all kinds of collaboration techniques, and some people argue that Outlook is also groupware because using groupware you can schedule meetings and so forth. Now it's interesting to know that from a managerial standpoint that this is a very popular, personal productivity software is a very popular category of applications, software applications. I would say, pretty much any kind of professional around the globe, has license or has access to one of those. So that kind of tells you that, Microsoft has been very strategic about deciding which line of software applications to enter, because Microsoft, like it or not, a lot of people don't like this, but Microsoft still has a very dominant position in all those 5 categories. There are all kinds of talks about Google Docs replacing Microsoft Word or replacing Microsoft Excel, but that hasn't happened yet. Maybe what's happening nowadays is that Microsoft Access is going out of fashion, although it's still widely used for personal productivity and by small businesses. It's being replaced by open source databases such as MySQL and web-based database system. Maybe somebody can say that electronic mail or groupware applications by Microsoft are losing popularity in favor of Gmail or other web-based free tools. But still, it looks like Microsoft has a very dominant position here. Now, a few words about presentation graphics. The de facto standard nowadays still, as you know, is Microsoft PowerPoint. However, Microsoft PowerPoint is being increasingly criticized, across different fields, and it looks like there are some alternatives to Microsoft PowerPoint that are currently emerging. Now, one thing I'd like to show you, the so-called Prezi Software. Now, Prezi Software is a new trend. I'm not sure what their market share is, not nearly as big as the market share of PowerPoint, but it's a new trend for creating presentations. So basically, Prezi is all about creating those interactive presentations where it's not like PowerPoint by PowerPoint. You can create like a map, visualization map involving graphics, and then you can zoom in on particular aspects of that map and explain more about those details. Now, in theory, it sounds like a very good idea because indeed, research on education and pedagogy shows that it's very important for somebody to have a roadmap of the information presented as opposed to being fed information in chunks. However, the presentations that I attended that use Prezi, they look a bit cumbersome to me. It's just jumping from one point to another. I'm not sure it really works for me personally. But again, things may change. Maybe they will fix some of their problems, some of their approaches, and it will become more effective. Now, Microsoft is also trying to catch up. They released a product recently called Microsoft Sway. Now, Microsoft Sway is like a new approach to creating presentations. Try it out. To me, it looks more similar to Pinterest, where you create not really slides, but more like boards, by adding graphics, points, text. So it's like this kind of new age Web 2.0 approach to presentation. So maybe they're experimenting and trying to see whether they can replace their PowerPoint product, because PowerPoints have been criticized extensively. For example, the commission that investigated Columbia accident, they believe that PowerPoints are partially to blame for the accident, because they were saying that basically PowerPoints, they are geared towards presenting information in a chunky or simplified manner, and then that prevented NASA engineers from understanding some of the issues in relation to Shuttle Columbia project. Here you can also read, this is a New York Times article that says PowerPoint makes you dumb. It also talks by one of the most well-known researchers on visualization of information and theorist. So basically, he says that PowerPoints impose certain cognitive style on us, and basically at the end of the day, it makes us a bit dumber because we're not capable of fully understanding information or fully understanding the complexity of the information that is being presented to us. So that's why PowerPoints, they're being replaced by some, or being challenged by some alternative approaches to information visualization, such as Prezi and Microsoft Sway. Now, databases or database management systems they use by storages for storing data. Again, Microsoft Access is a very famous one. They used to create, manage, protect, and manipulate organizational data. Mostly they employ relational model, but if you have experience with databases, you know what it is. However, the relational model is going out of fashion in the era of big data, and no relational databases such as NoSQL are gaining popularity as well. We discussed this personal productivity software, personal graphics, Microsoft PowerPoint, and why it's going out of fashion. Electronic mail is an important, is an important category of personal productivity applications. Again, I would say in the world of business, Microsoft Outlook is still the dominant application, the de facto standard. Although a lot of organizations nowadays are relying on Gmail. For example, Gmail has this corporate version. Here, at Murray State University, we're using this corporate version of Gmail. And then Groupware for collaboration. Again, Outlook seems to have dominant position here. Now, when it comes to group collaboration for software development, there is I'm sorry, I put a wrong link here. There is the so-called Jira application. It's an online application by a company called Atlassian. So this is like a project management, issue tracking application that are used by software development groups for collaboration. If you want to get a free small-scale groupware or project management tool, try Productive. I'm using it in my own work. So Productive seems to be like a kind of scaled-down, simplified version of Jira, but it can be very effective for managing group work, including group work in relation to software development. So it looks like the trend nowadays is towards those kind of free web-based tools such as Productive. And then web browsers, a very important category of application software. So web browsers, as you well know, they're used to retrieve hypertext-based text or information from the web. They use the so-called pull technology. In other words, a user needs to request a particular web page to send information when the user is ready. That's contrasted with the so-called push technology, such as email, where things such as spam email messages are being pushed onto you without you kind of explicitly requesting for it. Examples of of well-known browsers include Internet Explorer, Firefox, Safari from Apple. Now, one browser that is not mentioned here, and that seems to be the number one browser, not based on research but based on my personal observation, is Google Chrome. Now, Google Chrome created a lot of noise in the software industry. The company that seemed to be worried the most about Google Chrome was Microsoft. Now, if you remember the history of Chrome, the story behind it, Google decided to release Chrome because they felt that there was a need for a web browser that is actually optimized for running code, for running applications. Because originally a web browser, I think it was created by Sir Berners-Lee, one of the founders of the World Wide Web. I think the initial browser, called Mosaic, was created simply to represent text and images. That's it. It wasn't meant to run any software applications. So that's why Google decided to create a browser that seems to be optimized for running software code, more specifically JavaScript. And that started to worry Microsoft a lot, because they felt that Google is trying to basically create a new operating system for the future. Remember, we had this discussion a bit earlier about the fashion of computing swinging back again towards cloud architecture or kind of terminal-based architecture. So basically, Microsoft probably felt that if this trend continues, then a lot of people will be running their apps from a browser, not from an operating system such as Windows. So that's why they felt that Google Chrome is a challenge to their Windows operating system that gave them a tremendous advantage over their competitors. And I think things start moving that way, because after releasing Chrome, after challenging a little bit Microsoft in the operating system market, Google started releasing another set of application called Google Docs. Again, Google Docs wasn't their application. There was a startup company called Writely, and they sold this Google Docs idea, this idea of a kind of online Microsoft Office-like set of tools to Google. And again, Microsoft was very worried about it, because they felt that now that Google is challenging them in the personal productivity application market as well. It looks like Google Docs, they're still out there. People use it. People use them from time to time. They haven't really took off to the point where they would replace Microsoft Office suite. However, it looks like Microsoft is trying to catch up by releasing web-based version, like this Office 365 with a web-based version available. So it looks like they're trying to kind of catch up, or at least neutralize Google in that area of online-based alternatives to Microsoft Office products. Okay, so that concludes part 3 of our presentation. Thank you for listening.